I'll never forget the most terrifying and tragic Halloween of my life. I was in high school when my friend Sarah decided to host a huge Halloween party in her backyard. We planned to kick off the evening with trick-or-treating and then head to her place for the festivities. The idea was to pool all our candy into a big bowl to share with everyone at the party. A group of us set out on foot around 5 p.m. to gather as much candy as possible. We divided into smaller groups to cover more ground. Everything was going smoothly, and by the time we headed back to Sarah's, my bag was nearly bursting with candy. Sarah had gone all out with the decorations: string lights, skeletons, glowing jack-o'-lanterns, and a spread of Halloween-themed snacks. At the party entrance, there was a basket where guests could swap candies. I tossed in a few Tootsie Rolls and picked out some of my favorite chocolates. "I love your costume," my friend Emily said as she tore open a Pixie Sticks and poured the sugary powder into her mouth. "Thanks, yours is great too," I replied, admiring her Superwoman outfit. The party was in full swing. We were all laughing, chatting, and enjoying the sweets. Emily and I sat by the bonfire, roasting marshmallows. Out of nowhere, she said she wasn't feeling well. "Too much candy?" I teased, but she shook her head, saying she'd only had a couple of chocolates and a Pixie Sticks. I suggested she drink some water to help settle her stomach. Despite drinking water, Emily's condition worsened. Her skin turned pale, and her hands trembled. I quickly went to find Sarah to ask if she had any medicine. Sarah said she'd check with her parents and meet me back at the bonfire. When I returned, Emily was on the ground, seizing and foaming at the mouth. I screamed for help, panicking as I tried to understand what was happening. A nearby kid called 911, and Sarah rushed inside to get her parents. In the midst of the chaos, I saw another friend, Olivia, also convulsing. We were all in shock, clueless about what was happening. Both Emily and Olivia were rushed to the hospital while police stayed back to investigate. They advised us not to eat any more candy until they figured out what was tainted. After a thorough investigation, it was discovered that someone had laced Pixie Sticks with cyanide and handed them out to trick-or-treaters. Tragically, Emily and Olivia didn't survive, and several other kids fell seriously ill. Fortunately, no one else at the party had consumed Pixie Sticks. The person responsible for this horrific act was eventually caught and sentenced to life in prison. Though justice was served, nothing can bring back Emily and Olivia. One thing is for sure, I'll never go trick-or-treating again, nor will I ever accept candy from a stranger. A few days before Halloween one year, my friend Lisa and I decided to visit a haunted corn maze we had heard about. It was known for being super creepy and fun, with actors in scary costumes jumping out to frighten visitors. The grand finale featured a headless man with a fake chainsaw chasing people near the end of the maze. Lisa and I were thrilled as we teased each other about how much we'd be screaming. We purposely arrived late, around 11 p.m., thinking the eerie, late-night atmosphere would enhance the experience. As we got there, most people were already leaving. After getting our tickets and waiting a bit, we finally entered the maze. The maze was more confusing than we had anticipated, with endless twists and turns. We ended up retracing our steps several times, laughing and screaming as actors dressed as witches and pig-headed creatures jumped out at us. We were having a blast. As we neared the end of the maze, we heard a distant buzzing sound. We immediately recognized it as a chainsaw, signaling the final scare of the maze. But then, we heard something unsettling. Blood-curdling screams, not followed by laughter, but sheer terror. Moments later, a group of teenage boys rushed past us, terror written all over their faces. "Run!" they shouted. "He's not an actor. The chainsaw is real." One of the boys had his jacket tied around his leg, blood seeping through the fabric from a gash on his skin. Lisa and I were frozen with fear, struggling to comprehend what was happening. Then we saw him, a man in a black ski mask holding a chainsaw with no guard. Blood dripped from its blade. Without uttering a word, he charged at us. We ran as fast as we could, taking random turns in the maze, desperate to lose him. We didn't dare look back, sprinting with all our might. Eventually, we stopped to catch our breath, straining to hear any sound of pursuit. All was silent. No buzzing chainsaw, no footsteps. Lisa tried calling 911, but the signal was weak. Meanwhile, I tried to figure out where we were, but everything looked unfamiliar. We were lost, deep in the maze, and I couldn't shake the fear that the man was still out there, lurking. After what felt like an eternity, Lisa finally got through to the emergency operator. They informed us that other callers had reported the man, and the police were already on the scene. Soon after, we heard the distinct sound of a helicopter circling above, searching for the suspect. We clung to each other, praying we would make it out safely. Suddenly, we heard a loud crunching sound nearby. Preparing to run, we were relieved to see a police officer approaching. He had come to guide us out of the maze and informed us that the suspect had been caught. One Halloween, I was at a friend's house with a big group of buddies from school. We were watching scary movies and just hanging out. My friend Frank had suggested that we play a practical joke on this kid, David from our grade. Frank wanted revenge on David because he had told on him for cheating on a math test. When I asked what he had in mind, he said that he thought we should go toilet paper and egg his house. The other guys laughed and agreed, talking about how funny the prank would be. I wasn't totally on board and was honestly afraid of getting caught, but I didn't want to be the odd man out or look like a loser for not participating. So I went along with it after a trip to the supermarket to pick up several cartons of eggs and an entire large package of toilet paper. We were on the way to the house. My anxiety was growing. I wasn't the type to get in trouble. We parked a little ways down from David's house, just far enough that our car wouldn't be visible from their windows when we took off towards the house. Each one of us dressed in black clothing in hopes of blending in. Frank grabbed the carton of eggs and began hurling them at David's car parked in the driveway. He then began aiming them at the side of the house. A few of the other guys were throwing toilet paper rolls at the trees, where they were winding around the branches, creating an unbelievable mess. "Come on, man, join us," Frank said to me, gesturing towards the half-empty carton of eggs. Reluctantly, I picked one up and aimed for the house. Just then, the front door swung open. There in the doorway was David's dad. He was holding a shotgun, and it was pointed right at me. I dropped the eggs and held up my hands, fearful for my life. "It's just a prank," one of my friends yelled from behind me. Fear in their voice after a long silence. The man lowered the gun and said, "The police are on their way. I suggest you all clear out." He didn't have to ask us twice. We sprinted to the car and Frank began speeding away. We ended up getting away with the prank, but it was the last prank I'll ever participate in. What was your favorite story drop? A comment, be sure to like and subscribe. Until next time, sleep tight, you.